Did you hear that collective gasp last night? Could you feel the tremors of the earthquake that was emanating from the WNBA dump? My inside sources, they are telling me that they could feel the sense of panic all the way in Ethiopia, where I'm not even sure television exists. If TV does exist in Ethiopia, I can tell you with 100% certainty, they are not wasting their time watching pretend basketball. Hell, they're having a hard enough time getting Americans to embrace pretend basketball. Now, if you were to believe the mainstream media, you would think that fans of the Indiana Felines were in a complete panic last night as they watched Caitlin Clark screaming in agony after she rolled her ankle. "This is traumatizing! If Katie Rue is seriously injured, our season is over." "Oh well, the NFL starts in 2 weeks." This is another case of the media giving us a partial truth. Here on the channel, we call it the shit sandwich, the doodle delicacy. I'm sure fans of the Indiana Felines, well, let me correct myself. There is no such thing as fans of the Indiana Felines. I'm sure fans of Caitlin Clark were concerned last night when she went down with an ankle injury. Katie Rue, she ended up returning and she had what I thought was a stellar second half. But believe me when I tell you, no one was more concerned while watching what happened last night than the diva of dump divas Kat Engelbert and the WNBA front office. In the span of a few seconds, the diva of dump divas watched her record-breaking season potentially vanish. If Caitlin Clark was seriously injured and she ended up missing the chase for the golden toilet, which starts here in about 3 weeks, if that was the end result last night, the WNBA season, it would be over. Attendance would plummet, television ratings would return to the pooper, ratings for the postseason, they would be absolutely embarrassing, as the WNBA would be completely overshadowed by college football and the NFL. You know, sports that people actually care about. Fortunately, though, for the dump, Caitlin Clark, she appears to be okay. But that does not mean the WNBA doesn't have serious problems. You see, Caitlin Clark, she is kind of like the polish on this rancid turd. Much like the campaign of Cam Harris, the WNBA, it is an illusion. The star power of Caitlin Clark, it makes the league look good to those that don't pay attention, but the drawing power of Caitlin Clark, it's a double-edged sword. With more eyes on the WNBA than ever, more and more people are starting to realize what Uncle KC has been saying for years now. The WNBA product sucks. I mean, it sucks. If you haven't already, make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. How many of you guys have ever heard of Curt Miller? Anyone? Anyone heard of Curt? That's okay. That's okay. Curt has been coaching in the dump for so long, his husband no longer recognizes him. He keeps calling him Bert. Curt Miller has been coaching pretend basketball for the last 9 or 10 years. 2 years ago, he was coaching the Female Suns in Connecticut. September 2022, the Female Suns, they are playing, I think, the Phoenix Masculines or the Dallas Wankers. Who cares? ESPN damn sure didn't care. They buried the broadcast of the game on ESPN DOS. But during a timeout, Curt Miller, he became frustrated with his dump divers disguised as professional basketball players. As he was watching from the sidelines, he kept seeing these so-called professionals miss layup after layup. Someone would grab an offensive rebound and go for the putback, and the next thing you know, the miniature ball is landing on the face of the dude in the front row who had fallen asleep hours ago. Bert became frustrated with his collection of pretenders. During a timeout, he made a bold prediction as to what would happen if they continued missing wide open layups. Watch for yourself.
Any suggestion on pro players making a layup? Like, honestly, I'm going to get fired because we can't make a layup.
The Female Suns ended up making it to the WNBA Finals that year. Didn't matter to Curt Burt because several weeks later, he was on the first Greyhound bus to Los Angeles to coach the LA Sparkles. Couple of things stuck out to me here. Number one, the female Suns. They were one of the best teams in the dump, and they could not make wide open layups. Number two, this is a head coach in the WNBA with 10 years of experience complaining to players who are supposed to be professionals about their inability to make a damn layup. 2 years ago, this clip of Kurt Miller, it was largely unnoticed because 2 years ago, the WNBA was unnoticed. But the same problems from 2 years ago, hell, the same problems of the last 30 years, those problems are still prevalent in the WNBA today. This is a league of players who want to be called professionals who can't make the easiest shot in basketball. Last night, the WNBA was getting absolutely roasted on social media. The announcers on NBA TV, they kept calling this basketball, but the product on the court, it wasn't remotely close to being professional basketball. 3-point shots going off the side of the backboard, Caitlin Clark throwing perfect passes to teammates who couldn't catch the ball if it was magnetized. Let me show you a couple of examples of what I'm talking about here. If you were to believe the original pooper swooper Sherry Swoops, you would think that Aaliyah Boston was one of the best players in the WNBA. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to take Sherry at her word. For a brief moment, I'm going to suspend my disbelief, and I'm going to believe that Aaliyah Boston is one of the best basketball players in the world. Final seconds of the game last night, in a high-scoring second half that featured a combined total of 73 points. 73 points. Exciting. Final seconds of the game, the Felines run a play to get the ball to their supposed best player. Watch what happens. That was just a couple of examples. There are plenty more on social media of so-called professionals showcasing their inability to make a simple layup. I told you guys months ago when Caitlin Clark was preparing to enter the dunk, I told you guys the WNBA, they are not ready for prime time. This league is not ready to entertain the millions of people that would be tuning in to watch Caitlin Clark. Star power. It can only take you so far. Caitlin Clark has the drawing power to get you into the mainstream, but it's up to the other 143 players in the league to maintain the audience. Caitlin Clark can't do this by herself. Michael Jordan, he would not be Michael Jordan if he wasn't surrounded by true professionals. Why? Because the product would be substandard. Americans, we will tolerate a lot of things. Alvin Kamara gets arrested in Las Vegas for jumping some dude in an elevator. Can he still run the football? Can he still catch out of the backfield? Yes and yes. Put his ass on the field. Mickey Loomis and Gail Benson refused to fire Denise Allen last year after he displayed his beta male tendencies throughout the season and capped it off by apologizing to the Falcons. Donnie Carr is still the quarterback, even though most of the fan base cannot stand Donnie. Come September 8th, everyone will still be watching the Saints. Now, even though I can't stand the coach, even though I'm not a big fan of the quarterback, I'm still going to support them because I love my team. I'll bitch, I'll complain, I'll claim that I am never watching them again, but Sunday afternoon at 12 o'clock, my dumbass will be sitting in my living room watching the Saints. Americans will tolerate a lot of things when it comes to sports, but one thing most people refuse to tolerate, at least in the long term, substandard products. People are not going to tolerate boredom. People wouldn't tolerate boredom 30 years ago when cable had less than 100 channels. Back then, there was no YouTube, there was no streaming services. Today, there are too many options available for someone to waste 2 hours of their valuable time being painfully bored watching the WNBA. Why do you think the rest of the league is struggling to draw ratings? One of my long-term viewers, he contacted me last night. They live in the Phoenix area and his son received free tickets to watch the Masculines play the New York Liberals. I'll share a couple of the clips that he sent me of the exciting action last night. He tells me that his wife used to defend the quality of play in the WNBA when he would share my videos with her. While they were at the game last night, they noticed the half-empty arena would erupt in the rare instances when someone would make a layup. His wife leaned over and asked him, "Why are people overjoyed when these players make easy shots?" I can only speculate, but I would imagine the crowd erupts for made layups because they rarely see them. Make no mistake about it, this is a serious problem for the WNBA. This league is allergic to offense in a society that embraces offense. I don't know if you noticed, but I didn't mention Angel Reese throughout this video, and there's a reason for that. I have been picking on Angel Reese a lot lately for her inability to make layups, her inability to make threes, her inability to do anything that scores actual points. I didn't mention Angel Reese or show one of the many compilations I have of her embarrassing herself because I wanted to show you guys that this is not an Angel Reese problem. Angel Reese, she is the norm in the WNBA. This is a league-wide issue. Maybe Angel Reese struggles to make layups because she doesn't have anyone qualified to teach her how to make them. Honestly, I don't know if this is a player issue or a coaching issue. Probably a combination of both, but I have a hard time blaming the coaches because if you're being paid to play basketball, the minimum expectation, the bare minimum expectation is that you already know the fundamentals. I don't expect WNBA coaches to have to teach players how to make layups. I don't expect coaches to have to teach players how to catch a wide open pass. Look, this is not sustainable. This level of play, it is not sustainable. Who is to blame though? Is this a coaching problem or is this a player problem? Also, if this level of play continues, will the WNBA begin losing the audience that Caitlin Clark gifted to them? You tell me. Sound off in the comments below. Like, subscribe, share the video. Appreciate your support. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, and I'll see you guys later.